All right, thanks for sticking around for the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Rich Walsh in for Bob Pompiani tonight, and we have another all-star cast for you. Joining me tonight is Jeff Hathhorn from 93.7 The Fan, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, and Brian Batko from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette covering the Steelers. And we'll get to the Steelers, the Pirates, and Pitt hoops in a little bit, but I want to start with the Four Nations face-off. This has been a huge success, guys. I love it. I'm into it, and I think what is the success about this one, Jeff, is everyone wants to play for the country, and you can see how exciting is it out there for those guys.
Yeah, I don't know how many all-star games have fights. Not that necessarily need to see 3 fights to start a game in any sport, but to see competition, to see guys that were engaged, that wanted to play, that had something to play for. I mean, that's what you want to see. All-star games at one point were entertaining because they would play, or you didn't see certain teams because they just weren't on your television. Now you've got to create something else, and I think, to your point, Richie, I think they did fall into something that works.
I think it's a really cool thing, and I think it was absolutely disgraced by what happened at the start of last night's game. I thought that was an absolute sham, that it was a disgrace to hockey, and it should never have happened. Everybody was anticipating a great game between Canada and the U.S. with both sides having such great players, and they started with that absolute garbage. What a poor advertisement for a great sport and a great event. And I totally agree that it's a really cool concept, and I don't know why they had to spoil it like that.
Yeah, I guess the fighting in hockey thing is always one of those debates, right? Like, it gets people talking, but a lot of dumb stuff gets people talking. It did seem a little bit corny to me, and yet on the flip side, my mom's texting me about it. You're seeing all these fights, and then, like, you know, for her to pay any attention to hockey is pretty rare. And even for me, as someone who's covering the Steelers year-round, I mean, I'm a casual hockey fan at best, but I might tune into the end of this because there are some stakes. You do get the countries involved, and especially here in Pittsburgh, it's doubly intriguing because obviously you're going to have the U.S. to watch and root for, but then you've got the Sid factor too with Canada. So it does seem like the NHL, if, you know, it's kind of like being the slowest or the fastest man in Wyoming, I guess, but they might have the best all-star situation going right now of the 4 main leagues.
Mike, I'm not a big fights in hockey guy, but I think it motivated the U.S., didn't it? It got them going.
Doesn't playing Canada motivate you enough with the success that Canada has had over the years? I'm not crazy about fights in hockey. But if they're organic and somebody does something and they make me so angry that I'm going to get into a fight and my sport kind of condones it, okay, I can live with that. But this was all orchestrated. Nothing happened in 2 seconds to make anybody fight.
3 fights in 9 seconds. Did you like it? Did you not? I mean, where do you stand on fights in hockey?
No, I mean, to your point, they were talking about it before it happened. And, you know, hey, let's drop the gloves and go at it. And it almost gave it a wrestling instead of a real sport type of setup. I'm glad it didn't continue into the game. I know there are a few cheap shots. I know when Sid was coming off the end of the second period, you know, he got Kachuk gave him a little something, but I'm glad it just became about the sport itself.
Contrived, yes, but you're kind of right, Jeff. I mean, that's why people watch professional wrestling still, and it's one of those deals where I'd be a hypocrite if I were at the game. I'd probably be telling my 5-year-old, "Oh, this is great, they're about to fight," and then as soon as it stopped, I would say, "Don't do that." Actually.
But can this bring in the average hockey fan, someone that doesn't really watch the NHL, maybe fighting something different? It's kind of like the stadium hole, Jeff, over in golf. It brings in your non-golfing fans.
I mean, it does. I think the concept is what brought in the fans. It's like, why is Olympic hockey so much higher rated than regular season hockey? Well, it's because it's for your country. Yeah. And I think that's why people, listen, like us, I wanted to see what happened during the national anthem because, you know, there are other things that are going on. So, I mean, that part brought me in as well. And then the competition, you want to see competition. You don't necessarily want to see the fights. You want to see the competition.
Yeah. You want to see the best. You want to see the best players out there, right?
Playing hard. And trying.
Yeah. And that is the difference between this event, which we all think is a great idea, and the NBA All-Star Game, which happened on Sunday. They stopped playing. 30, well, I'm showing my age. 40 years ago, when Bob McAdoo and Julius Erving and that bunch were playing in NBA All-Star games, it was a competition. It was a battle. The basketball was brilliant. You can go back maybe and find some of that stuff on YouTube, and it was fabulous. And now, I remember I was at BTN last year doing a studio show, and so I came back and I looked at the screen, and there was something like 8 minutes left in the game, and they already each had around 190 points. I mean, that's not basketball.
Yeah. Mike, do you think this is something the NHL fell into? Do you think that they can do this every year?
Well, I don't think it would work in an Olympic year, But I don't know that they're going to have an all-star break in an Olympic year anyway. But in the non-Olympic years, I think it's a terrific idea. I think it's something they should absolutely repeat, as opposed to the different all-star circumstances they've tried out, the 3-on-3 and all the rest. It's not working. This will.
Yeah, I think they should. I mean, to Mike's point, I mean, I'm a much bigger basketball fan than hockey fan, but I don't watch the NBA All-Star Game. I mean, it has become basically a joke, and so much has changed over the years in sports. Money has changed, roster movement, free agency, and it's taken away from these All-Star Games for sure. And so is the obsession with rings and winning. No one's going to risk, foot. I think LeBron said he had ankle and foot discomfort, which is why he's not going to play in the All-Star Game this year. I mean, everybody's got some sort of discomfort at this point.
Well, and guys, I would say, I mean, Tyler Kennedy was on the Fan a couple days ago, and he was saying, why not have this, except for the Olympics, you could have 8 teams, single elimination, and you could do it in the span of even a long weekend, and invite Russia. I know that the political stuff, it would be more interesting if Russia has a team, if the Czech Republic had a team, if Slovakia had it. I mean, if there was an 8-team, invite them all in, I think everybody would be up for it, and it would be amazing television. It would probably outdraw the regular season.
Brian, do you think that the other sports will look at this and try to model it after it? I know Major League Baseball could do something like the World Baseball Classic, play for your country. The NFL you can't really play for your country, but maybe you could play for your college or your conference or your state or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea in theory, Rich. I mean, get a team of Florida, California, Texas, and then, the field, basically, and you could probably have some fun with that. But still, what are they going to be doing? They're probably going to be playing flag football, and I just think the people have spoken. They don't really care to watch that, even when it's still the biggest stars on the biggest stage.
Yeah, gone are the days of Brian Clark hammering somebody in a Pro Bowl. We're just not going to see that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, but how could you do it, though? Could you it would have to be flag football, I guess, Mike, right? If you played for your state. But I think that would be interesting. I mean, I would watch it if you played for your college. If a Pitt guy was playing, I would potentially pay more attention than the flag football or these trivia games or whatever they're doing now in this Pro Bowl activity.
Dodgeball.
Yeah, I think the Pro Bowl has outlived its usefulness. They haven't even been able to revive it with the Pro Bowl games. I don't think that, other than being selected to the Pro Bowl as an honor, I don't think there's much value to it at this point.
I don't even know that there's that anymore when you get to these 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th
well, if you're an alternate, yes, I meant the first guys.
Yeah, no, I think people have pretty much tuned out of the Pro Bowl, and yet does it take away from the enjoyment and obsession with professional football in this country? Absolutely.
You're saying Russ wasn't deserving?
Do you leave the I still like the Major League Baseball All-Star Game.
Yeah, I think because pitchers go an inning, so you could get a Paul Skeens in there, and let's see how fast he can throw it, how hard he can throw it. Or you get the relievers. You run 3 relievers like Mason Miller, who can throw 101. Yeah, I think that makes it still interesting.
Yeah, you want to see Skeens match up with the best hitter, and I think, I know this isn't a NBA city at all, but I wonder if they went to a one-on-one sort of format like that. I don't know if players would ever agree to do it, but I think you might get, some of the more removed basketball fans maybe check that out of a little bit of intrigue.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about Bucko Fever. Full squad reports tomorrow. Stay right there. All right, welcome back to the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Rich Walsh in for Bob Pompiani tonight. Now it's time to switch our attention to the Pirates, who report tomorrow. Full squad reports. The pitchers and catchers have already been there. Jeff, I think it's hard to get excited right now. They're coming off of a 76-win season. Their over and under is 77. They did absolutely nothing this offseason. Why should we be encouraged?
Tommy Pham, left field.
Don't get me started about Tommy Pham.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would have loved to see them spend more in free agency. I mean, you had an opportunity. You sold us that when you get better and you're in that position, you're going to spend money. Well, they didn't this offseason. Are there still times with trades? Sure. Could they at the trade deadline, if they're in a position, make a huge move? I'd love to see it. But now they're at this hope process where Swinsky comes back and O'Neal Cruz is that all-star and Joey Bart plays like that again. And you know what? Cabrian is going to be healthy all year this year and bring up big numbers. And that's what's disappointing. Maybe all of that happens and they turn into a 90-win team. That would be great.
But you have to hit on everything. That doesn't happen.
I've heard a coach say many times, hope is not a plan.
Yeah, I was exactly what I was going to say. I don't think it was my original thought, but hope is not a strategy. That's not how it works. You have to have contingencies. You have to have plans for every single position on your team. They have the starting pitching fairly well covered, and certainly brilliantly at the top, but they did not really do anything to bolster their lineup in the areas where it needed it. And it's hard to understand why, because they weren't anywhere near their own salary cap, so to speak. It wasn't like they were paying, they were just near the very edge of what they could afford, so they couldn't. No, I mean, they're way below what they could afford and still make money, and they still didn't really make any significant investment.
No, this year to me, Rich, is no different than last season. It's going to be, ask my buddies, hey, what day does Skeens pitch this week? All right, maybe we'll go check it out. Maybe I'll go to the bar and flip it on. Other than that, not a ton of interest. You do mention Tommy Pham in jest. I'm a little bit curious what's going to happen there, because he does have a reputation as somewhat of a hothead in Major League Baseball, and he's coming into a pressure cooker of sorts, not on the Pirates to win necessarily, but the negativity and pessimism in this fan base if he does become a key contributor. I know kind of the big news today in Bradenton was that he was there in Pirate City, and everything all the I's and T's got done.
But he's an average player.
Exactly. It's not about what he's going to do on the field.
Is he though?
Maybe not even average.
It's been a while, at least a little while, since he has been an average player. That's the problem. I mean, they didn't sign somebody who was coming off even a poor year. That's the problem. When you look at something like that, you needed to bring in somebody who you had a legitimate reason to believe would succeed. With him, it's really just hope that he can get back to what he once was.
They're obviously doing fans a disservice. I mean, why should fans be excited about this? I mean, don't you feel you have to do something as an owner of a team? You have to have some pride, right, Mike? You have to do something.
I think in a lot of markets in baseball now, it's really just about a pastime. It really is just about going to the ballpark is a nice way to spend 3 hours. And here, it's more true than just about anywhere. It's one of the, if not the best ballpark in the majors, it's one of. And so everybody who goes to the park gets that. But relative to actually being a contender or winning games, I don't see any real serious investment in that.
I could be doom and gloom and say, the salary cap structure of Major League Baseball, it's very depressing to even follow a small market team knowing you hit on a player like Paul Skeens, and yet it's not like he's going to change the trajectory of your organization necessarily, because he's not going to be here all that long. And especially it gets even more doom and gloom when you realize the Pirates aren't investing to put the pieces around him. And yet, Jeff, it's kind of like a drink and dry January. I see Bubba Chandler popping up on the internet and what he's doing out there. And then I'm like, maybe I will get a little bit intrigued once the season starts and they call up a guy like that. And like Mike said, you sort of just want to go down to the stadium and watch a game.
Listen, the salary stuff, there is merit to that. I mean, even the Steinbrenners are complaining about it now, that the Dodgers are spending too much money and it's getting out of control. And when the Steinbrenners are saying that, I mean, that tells you where we're at. But I think there was more that they could have spent to upgrade their talent this year. Again, maybe it'll all work out, and we're going to sit back and say, wow, look at all these guys. They were right. New hitting coach, brought in a veteran to help out with the pitching staff. I mean, maybe all this is going to be great, but man, they go in with a lot of question marks.
Obviously, it's a Major League Baseball problem. I mean, should we see a floor at least? I mean, when can we get this fixed?
A floor doesn't change anything.
At least it makes the Pirates spend $100 million.
So you're spending $100 million on the same players. You have to have a cap. If you have a floor, all that means is that the Dodgers can continue to overspend and overspend and Look, remember, what the Dodgers make in television, they actually spend less of that than the Pirates do of what they make. They make so much more money in television than what the Pirates do, and they are spending a lot more, but they're not spending nearly as much of what they earn as the Pirates are. So that's the issue. If you raise the floor, all that does is mean the Dodgers can keep going out and spending as much as they want on the best players, and the Pirates have to spend more money on players that aren't as good. You have to have a cap system with both a salary and a floor, which are very close together, like they do in the NFL, like they do in the NHL. That would make baseball, it would ignite baseball interest in a way that it hasn't been since I was a teenager. That was a long time.
Do you think we're going to see one?
And I love that the Dodgers are spending. Let them keep spending. Keep adding all-stars. Make it so ridiculous that the New York Yankees are complaining.
Yes. All right, we're going to take a break. Coming up next, we're talking about the Steelers. What are they going to do at quarterback? That's a big question. Stay right there. All right, welcome back to the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Rich Walsh. Now I want to get into the Steelers. What are they going to do at quarterback? I don't even really want to get into this ridiculous trade that was reported early in the week of the Steelers reaching out to Trevor Lawrence, which would never happen, isn't going to happen, not true, Brian. But what are they going to do? There really isn't anyone to trade for, maybe Matthew Stafford. There isn't anyone in free agency outside of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields that you'd want. And I don't like any of the quarterbacks in the draft.
Yeah, it's kind of a three-path hypothetical here. I mean, do you try to go the Russell Wilson route again and look into Aaron Rodgers and just hope he's got a good year left in him to try to strike while the iron's hot with Cam Hayward and TJ Watt? Do you go young and just try to rebuild on the fly again? Or do you go in that middle ground with a Sam Darnold type? They've tried all of these things already in the post-Ben era. They've done the veteran deal with Russ. They've done the kind of middling guy with Fields and Trubisky, and they've gone the rookie route with Kenny Pickett. None of it's worked so far, so good luck to Omar Khan and company.
What they haven't done is taken someone like Justin Fields and say, hey, we're going to build an offense around you. What you do well, we're going to do it. That's what just won the Eagles the Super Bowl. After the first 4 games of this year, when the Eagles were 2-2, they went into the bye and they said, it doesn't matter what the offensive coordinator likes to run. It doesn't matter that we have great wide receivers. We're going to run an offense that works for our quarterback, Jalen Hurts. If the Steelers brought back Justin Fields and said, we're going to build around what you do well, which is your legs, your arm when you're given a specific target, and not too much information to process. If they went in that direction, I think it could work. Not to the level that Jalen worked for them, but to a significant degree.
I agree.
And they let him go. And they allow him to make mistakes. Yeah. They allow him to be aggressive. They allow him the freedom to try to make plays, even if it means that mistakes happen and the dreaded turnover, no one wants to see them. But, there were times, come on, we're watching games where they were so conservative because they thought, all right, we'll kick 6 field goals and win the game. And they did that twice. But that's not going to build anything. Here's the thing for me, Richie. They need to think about 2004 when they drafted Ben. They were unsure about Cordell after the 2001 season when they were in the AFC title game. But they didn't reach for a quarterback. They kept building their foundation. So when they got one, they were ready to go. They can't reach for somebody now. They're not ready. They're not a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. They need to build their base and then be ready for when they can find that quarterback. Maybe it's Justin Fields this year. Maybe it's not for 2 more years. But build that base. Find offensive linemen. Go get Polamalu. Go find those type of players. And then that way when you get your quarterback, you're ready.
I don't want to reach for any of these quarterbacks in this year's draft. I think Justin Fields is the best option, like Mike said, out there for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on record for weeks now, I guess probably about a month at this point, saying I'm also kind of in the camp of still make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that Justin Fields can't put it all together, that franchise quarterback is not still in there somewhere. I wrote for the Post-Gazette this weekend, or maybe it was online Friday, that it is very uncommon for a player who their initial team, when they draft them in the first round, if they don't make it to the end of that rookie deal, it doesn't usually go well for them in another spot. Most of them end up just being career backups at best, or they're out of the league. But maybe Fields can have a Baker Mayfield type of renaissance here in Pittsburgh. And, the funny thing is you hear from readers and listeners, and they say, no, he can't read a defense. He'll never be able to process it at the NFL level. These are the same people who said, well, maybe they should take a chance on Sam Darnold, who was famously seeing ghosts at one time in his life against the Patriots.
Fields has had how many different offensive coordinators?
Right. Yeah.
He hasn't had a chance.
But that was Hurts. That is Hurts. It's who he is. He doesn't see the entire field as well as Tom Brady, but he does see A.J. Brown when he's open, and he can get the ball there. And we all saw throws that Justin Fields made in the time that he played that were special throws. It just has to be that particular target. So I would be very interested in that if they were willing to invest in him.
But Hurts doesn't have to be great because everything around him is great.
Yeah.
He's good enough.
Justin Fields would have to be great. All right, we got to take a break. Coming up next, can Pitt make the NCAA tournament? How would that have to happen? All right, welcome back to the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Rich Walsh, so we'll go to Mike DeCourcy for this one of the sporting news. What does Pitt have to do to make the tournament? Any chance? I mean, 6 straight wins, 2 wins in the tournament.
I think that I looked at it real quickly, and I see 1 quad 1 game left at Louisville is all that's left, which means they can't lose any more games because they can't afford to take any losses to any of the non-quad 1 teams, and they need more quad 1 success, which means they have to beat Louisville on the road, and then they would have to do some good things at the ACC tournament. I think it's a very long road from here, and with the way they've played, to expect them to win all their remaining games just isn't logical.
that Wednesday night game at SMU really hurt. Now, SMU played lights out in that game, but it still seemed like Pitt just didn't have it in them to rally, especially once Jalen Lowe went down too. But at least they survived and advanced in the bubble conversation, beating Miami Saturday, because I wasn't entirely sure that was going to happen.
Yeah, Virginia, North Carolina.
Virginia game was bad. And, you know, they can win at Notre Dame, if they could win at Louisville, even if they lose one and make a run in the ACC, depending on who they're playing. But, man, you look at some of these other conferences, they're talking about 12 teams out of the SEC, maybe 10 out of the Big Ten. I mean, where are you going to – how many ACC teams are going to get in? Not many.
So what you guys are saying, Robert Morris has a better chance of getting into the tournament than Pitt.
Good for Bobby Moe.
Yeah, I'm really pleased. I've always liked Andy as a coach. I think he's terrific, and so I'm very glad to see their success. It's not going to be an easy championship to win. Fort Wayne's very good. Cleveland State's very good. And Milwaukee's good, but they've got a chance.
All right, right now it's Show Me the Savings time with dazzling auto show offers at all number one Cochran locations. Find new vehicles starting under $19,000 with more than 175 models under $25,000. Plus, get leases as low as $139 a month, financing from 0%, and savings up to $25,500. Now at all number one Cochran locations and Cochran.com. All right, that's it for us. Thanks to Jeff, Mike, and Brian. I'm Rich Walsh. Have a great night, great week, and we will see you next week.